Hi, welcome to Bipolar Boxing Picks. This is Nick. This weekend we got Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz. Very slow weekend for boxing. We were supposed to get Irizlandi Lara versus Danny Garcia, which I don't know who the hell I would have taken in that fight. I mean, and Lara's getting up there in age, but man, if they were both in their prime, I would take Lara in a heartbeat. But I don't know. But we're not getting that fight anyways. And after last week, I mean, we could use a break, guys. We can use a break. We can use a little circus in town. Let me just start off the bat. Like, I am a huge Jake Paul supporter for our sport. I can care less about what that idiot does in his free time or whatever, but the guy is dedicated to this sport, and he's bringing nothing but good into this sport. I understand, like, there is so many people out there that just hate this guy. They hate the quote unquote circus that he brings to our sport. Like, what you call a circus, I call it bringing money into our sport. I call it getting guys on his undercard paid. Let me tell you, the fighters on this undercard are going to be making a lot more money than the fighters on the Spence undercard, Spence Crawford undercard. That's the way you got to look at it. Like, I don't care if you don't want to watch him fight Nate Diaz. Be thankful what he's bringing into our sports, because I guarantee you every single fighter on his undercard won't say a damn bad thing about Jake Paul bringing the quote-unquote circus to our sport, because they're all making a lot more money than they would be fighting on anyone else in this sport's undercard. So he is very, very good for our sport, and he gets eyes onto our sport. Like, people don't realize the sport of boxing is not going to survive with people like me who watch fights every week, watch these matchroom cards out in England every week. Like, the sport's not going to survive with people like me. You need people who don't usually watch boxing to watch 4 or 5 fights a year to support that. That's how our sport is going to thrive. You need people from the outside. That's what every other sport in our country does, and they all succeed by doing that. The NFL's whole thing in the last 5 years or so has been, how do we get more women to watch the sport? We got the guys. They ain't going nowhere. Boxing has us. They have the sport fan. I'm never going to stop watching boxing, ever. It's just, but that doesn't matter. There's not a lot of us. You guys know our boxing community is very small. So we need people like this just to bring money into the sport. Like, people keep saying that, like, Jake Paul is stealing money from other fighters. How the fuck is he stealing money from anybody? Every show he puts on is its own entity. Like, that's what generates money. That specific event, the money doesn't get dispersed into all these different places like it does the UFC. It gets dispersed into all those fighters' pay, for the most part, for a very large part of it. The money goes to the fighters in our sport. So when you have a guy that's bringing money in, it doesn't go to the boxing organization or anything like that to support that. It goes to all those fighters who are on that card. So it's a very good thing. I would love to debate anybody who says that Jake Paul is negative, bad for this sport. I would love to. But, I mean, let's just get to the fight. I mean, you have to say that, I mean, Jake Paul is going to be pretty much better everywhere than Nate Diaz. I mean, everywhere. The only thing I can think of that Nate Diaz would have is, like, he's probably got a better jab than Jake Paul. I haven't seen Jake use his jab too much. He probably has a very stiff jab, and I'm sure he's going to be bringing it up from the middle. Just because that's that's the MMA style, that, like, they have their hands down a lot. Well, they had their hands down a lot because they're worried about getting taken down, but that's where they're used to throwing punches from. So I could see that with Nate. I don't see him coming forward like with just like a normal stance. I just don't see that. I think he's gonna have one hand down, but he might have a good jab, and that's the only thing I could think of that he beats Paul on. But everything else is gonna be Paul's gonna be better. Paul's gonna be better. His cardio is gonna be better. And I know Nate Diaz has got that crazy cardio, but Jake Paul has been 8 rounds in a boxing ring. Nate Diaz hasn't. So it's just you're using different muscles. And the thing is, like, I'm not shitting on Nate Diaz. He shouldn't be that good in boxing because he's never fucking done it. Okay, I don't care if he sparred 100 rounds with Andre Ward. Sparring means next to nothing for me when it comes to talking about a professional fight. It just doesn't. So I mean, and Paul he's so much bigger. He's younger. He doesn't have the wear and tear on him. He's Everything is in Paul's favor. It's what he's been doing all of these fights. I've picked every single one of Jake Paul's fights correctly, and how he was going to get the win or the loss. So, I mean, I just have to go with Jake Paul here. Like, they're not going to. The other thing is, like, they're not going to set him up with a guy who's going to lose against. Like, he's all in on his boxing career. And, that's another thing. Like, as much as people can hate Jake Paul, like, give him some respect for what he's doing. Like, this guy could have, like, do you think anybody's going to pay to watch Nate Diaz and Jake Paul play a round of golf or play a tennis match or play a game of one-on-one basketball? Like, no, they're paying to see him fight in our sport. So that is a very good thing. But I mean, just give me Jake here by, I'm gonna say, knockout. And I hate to sit on the fence around the over unders, but I'm gonna say it's gonna be like the eighth round, maybe the ninth round or something like that. But I think Jake's gonna coast kind of early because he might be a little gun shy. Because yeah, if he loses this, like, his boxing career is probably done. It's done. So he might be a little gun shy early, but I think he's gonna start picking Nate off maybe around like round 3. The first 2 rounds I think will be very boring, but around like round 3 or so, Jake will start landing with some consistency and begin to pick Nate apart. I don't know if there'll be any knockdowns in this fight, but I think Jake gets him out of there with a TKO in the 8th round. I just see Jake so big, he's going to be walking Nate down a lot. Nate's not really used to being walked down. Nate usually stands there with that heavy front foot. Even in MMA, where you don't have heavy feet, he stands there with that heavy front foot. And he's probably going to, but if he does it against Jake Paul, he's just going to get knocked out. He's going to have to figure out a way to box off his back foot. And he's not, he's I mean, his footwork is horrible for MMA, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to carry over to boxing. So it's just another thing that Jake has an advantage of here. So, and the power and everything, but I just think Jake's going to get him out of there with a TKO. Like I said, I'm going to go as far as saying I don't think there'll be one scored knockdown in this fight, but I do think Jake gets a stoppage in the late rounds. It's just going to be a TKO. The ref will stop in. Some people might be mad or whatever. Oh, it's Nate Diaz. He's so strong or whatever. He's a tough guy. The fight will be deservingly so stopped in the later rounds. If not, I think it's a Jake Paul very wide decision. If I had to pick an over-under for Nate Diaz, how many rounds he would win, I would say 2, and I would even take the under on that. But that's the way I see it going. And, like I said, slow weekend for boxing, but enjoy the card, guys. I mean, at least we get to see Amanda Serrano in kind of a stay busy fight against Heather Hardy. I mean, the last time I watched her, I think she was fighting in fucking Bellator or something like that. And I used to bet her in Bellator just because she was an ex-boxer and stuff like that. But, I mean, Amanda Serrano is absolutely going to destroy her. I mean, Amanda Serrano is going to get that. I would imagine she has to get a TKO in her fight. So if you're looking for parlay options, Amanda Serrano is like a 25-1 favorite, so not much value there. But Amanda Serrano by knockout and Jake Paul by knockout, you can get more than even odds. You probably get like 2-1 or something like that if you parlayed them together. But those are my picks for the weekend. Let me know who you guys think is going to win the Jake Paul fight, and let me know if you guys think he's good or bad for boxing, because there's a lot of people out there that don't like this guy, but I am a fan of what he brings, and I'll be watching this weekend. You guys have a good one.